Terdag Lingpa was from a clan called the Nyu. The Nyu spread widely throughout Tibet. They were, and they're now called the Royal Nyu because they are the family of most of the Bhutanese aristocracy, including the royal family. The Nyu spread out very widely, and as a matter of fact, the 6th Dalai Lama was born into the Nyu lineage. The importance of the lineage is through Terdag Lingpa, born in 1646, died 1714, who created a whole cycle of practice, and was the progenitor of a family that produced some rather remarkable teachers, including his younger brother and his daughter, who is a very famous female teacher called Mingyur Palden. One of her less bright disciples left a biography of her, which she appears as a very extraordinary woman, but very wrathful. And this biography has been translated. We hope it'll soon come out. It was translated by Annie Marilyn Silverstone, who died before it was completed. And yes. It's just been Michael Abrams, or Pema Yeshe, who just died, has done some more work on it. We hope it'll soon come out through the Shechen Foundation. I know more about the teachings of the present, Jetson, who is supposedly an incarnation of the Mindrolling Mingyur Palden. It was a family in which there were many female practitioners who passed on the Chulkor, the exercises, and it is a very vibrant tradition still. It spread not only in central Tibet, but it spread. Most of the eastern Tibetan traditions have a connection with Mindrolling, including Shechen. All of them do. And it was Mindrolling in central Tibet was sort of the place that everybody went to study and to receive teachings. The story of her life comes well through this. And she lived a rather long time. That when this thing was going on, they had to run away because of the invasions of a Mongol tribe that were, intent on destroying the Nyingma tradition. And so she fled. She and her sister fled to Sikkim, where they had a connection. The king of the Sikkimese dynasty actually turfed out one of them. But it was an interesting story, the whole account of the perils that, and eventually, thanks to people like the second hierarch of Mindrolling, Pema Gyurme Gyatso, and this lady, the Mindrolling tradition survived. It continued in an unbroken lineage until the family died out, till the Dung, the bone, died out in the late end of the 19th, early 20th century. And because of the importance of this lineage, they brought in an incarnation who was the great-grandfather of the present Trizin. So they're from a different lineage. They're not from Europe. They go back to the Tertan lineage from Kham. But the two great monasteries of central Tibet were Dorje Trak of the Changter and Mindrolling of the Hloter. Now they didn't have close connections except at the time of Terdag Lingpa, when both the head of Dorje Trak, Pema Chinle, and Terdag Lingpa and his brother were living and were teachers of the fifth. He received their teachings. They're sort of tame Nyingma as far as the Gelugpas are concerned. There's some wilder ones, but this was the Nyingma establishment, and the teachings that they were specialists in. A special form of Avalokiteshvara, a special form of the Vajrayogini. These spread very widely into other sects. Mindrolling also had a specialty in a special form of Chu, or the cutting off teachings.
What you think is distinctive about the Terma, the revelations of Terdag Lingpa, relative to Teratons of his time, and just in Teratons in general? As a Westerner, I'm a little fuzzy on, basically Padmasambhava, throwing a forward pass into centuries, and then other people dialing into that, and then aside from that mechanism, there are great Teratons. There are Teratons who found lineages. Then there are other Teratons, and I've seen, like, in the listings of the unpublished or untranslated works of Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. He's got many volumes of commentary, on teachings of Terdag Lingpa.
Uh-huh.
So
the Terma there's really three types of Terma. There's Terma that really fits the category of Ter. That's texts that are hidden in the ground or in rocks or in rivers. These have been concealed by the Guru Rinpoche or people at his time. But then there's another type. There are two more types of Terma, which are called Gong Ter, or concealed in the thought processes. That's a bad word. Concealed in the transmigrating consciousness of a great spiritual leader. And that's what almost all of Khyentse Rinpoche's Terma are Gong Ter. These are some of the most powerful, they just emerge by magic. He'll just sit down and can write volumes of these Terma. It's quite amazing. The third type is called Danang. And the Danang are visions. Discontinuous visions. So they're passed on from a teacher who lives in this time, in the 14th century, and they're passed on to somebody who lives in the 18th. And there are signs of what makes an authentic Terma. Some people, like Mipam Rinpoche, wrote a text on how to examine Terma to see if they're really accurate. Besides textual Terma, there are Terma that are images or holy objects. They usually are found in places where it's prophesied that they will be found. So there's always a little document that says, if you go to this particular, you're ordained to find this, and if you go to this particular place, you you will find it. It's still a very, very active tradition. There are Tertan now in Tibet who are continually finding new Terma. Some of them make it. That is, they become accepted by large numbers of people. In our time, the most important Terma are the Terma of Dunjum, the Dunjum Lingpa, his incarnations. And that's called the Dunjum Tersar. There's the Chokling, Chokchur Dechen Lingpa, found these at the time of Khyentse, Wangpo, and Jamgon Kongtrul. And these have spread throughout the whole area and wiped out other Terma, built on them, but they become the practice that is the most efficacious for the liberation of human beings. Then you have the Changter, which is still very, very active and is found all over Nepal, in these northern Nepali areas. The Ku area, Kutang. And then you have the Pema Lingpa, which is still very active in Bhutan. It's the state Terma. In Sikkim, you have the Terma of Lhasa Namkha Jigme. And these are all connected, and they just merge together. So it's a constantly changing picture. The oldest Terma are the ones that go back to Ngadak Nyangral, which is and Guru Churwang, which are 13th and 14th centuries, and these spread widely. So the Terma tradition is very vast, and what makes the Mindrolling Terdag Lingpa system so important is that it was so perfect in its construction.
How so?
It was just the right Terma for the particular time. The most important is the Avalokiteshvara cycle. And then you had the Jampal, Manjushri. It became, if you look at the whole structure, it makes sense as a Terma tradition. Many Terma are medical Terma. If somebody gets sick of this disease, anthrax, say, in this particular time, the Guru Rinpoche will say, make these particular mantras and put them on the sheep or the goat or the yaks or the animals. They're intended for various reasons. There's astrological Terma. There's Terma for even modern teachings. So they're constantly finding these Terma. The textual Terma are little round shells, almost like shells, and you can see into them, but you have to have the right way of viewing them. You have to have you can look into them and then you transcribe them from this. You see this yellow paper, which is written inside, and you can get thousands of pages out of this little Terdrome, it's called. So there are still the most important Terma of our time are these Danang, and even more so the Terma, which is called Gongter. Many of the teachers today have these Gongter, and that's why the understanding of who they are incarnations of is so important. They know that, at the time of the Guru Rinpoche, I was king so-and-so. And at that time, this Terma was implanted in my transmigrating consciousness for revelation at these times of troubles. I think we're probably seeing many Terma coming out, in which are very important, according to the Tibetan tradition, for our time. And then what happens is the next thing is you have a Terdak, a person who is the owner of the Terma. And then the Tertan comes along, and he gives that Terma to a king or a prince or a regent who has been prophesied to get the Terma. Now, some of them are fake. There's lots of fake Terma around. There's a wonderful story of one Tertan. There are a few people who believe in him, but he was called the Reting Tertan. He became quite popular in the 20s of the last century. By the time Reting came to the throne after the death of the 13th Dalai Lama, this Terma became very popular. And they, were practicing it all over Tibet. But after Reting staged his rebellion and ended up, the Terma just dropped from sight. And today there are probably some people in Switzerland still following it who are followers of the Reting Tertan.
Do you think that's
Now,
a function of inefficacious Terma, or it sounds like political house cleaning?
Who knows? Terma and politics are very closely mixed. There's a great Tertan. Terma Tertans are great prophets as well, and you find whole volumes of prophecies. In this particular year, Tibet will face such and such. In this particular time, a demon will come forth, and oftentimes the political leaders strangle them. There's a very famous one in Bhutan called the Drukdra Dorji. Many people still believe in him, but the ruler at the time executed him for his prophecies. Many Bhutanese think he's still a valid Tertan and prophet. So a lot of it is politics. But the really authentic Terma, I think, is beyond politics, and they're often methods for practice for specific people, for specific times, and that is what I think that's what I think happened with the case of the Terdag Lingpa's plotter, because it spread every place. And then you had the brother who was systematizing. The son, who was a second habit, he even further systematized it and began to teach, write about prajnaparamita and and the secular. I mean the esoteric, the exoteric. So these are all. That's what Terma is about.
So it's sounding like, through how the Terma was picked up upon by people of the time throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that sense of resonation.
Resonates with the people.
Yeah. Is where we can evaluate it as it had legs. It had historical distinctiveness. The people used it and it worked for them. And
Terma means it's a discontinuous teaching. Doesn't have to come necessarily from the Guru Rinpoche. It could come from a famous Lama like Gampopa. Gampopa buried some teachings that were retrieved later by a later master. And you don't talk about sect here. It's a phenomenon that spreads throughout. The opposing type of teachings are Kama. These are texts that are passed in an unbroken lineage. So there's no break. And those are what are most of the teachings that we have.